All right, so this is the June GUA crossover, and we've paused for a month. At that point, life got tough for pretty much most of us in May at that point. But I think we have a lot to talk about tonight. So let's go around the horn and say who's here. So I'm Chris. I'm the co-host of Marvel Alliance and the host of World's Finest True Believers.
I'm Joe, and I just want to say I appreciate everybody showing up this time. Not that
He's not
Hey,
bitter.
hey,
You showed
I
up
was
late. You
I,
showed up. You
I
did show
was a
up.
little late,
But
but
you
I
did show
still
up.
showed up. Yeah.
Not saying I couldn't do it again. I've had a long
watch-
week. I don't want to
didn't
try.
Oh, Travis, co-host of DC Alliance and host of Animation Nation.
And sorry, I didn't know. It's been a while. I'm sorry.
Oh, whatever. I'm Brent. I'm Chris's co-host of Marvel Alliance.
Oh, and I am Clay, of course, fanboy Clay on Twitter. I am the host of Ranger Alliance, the co-host of Star Wars Alliance.
And I'm Katie. I clearly don't know what I'm doing. I'm the host of Star Wars Alliance and Slice of Film.
All right. Well, I would probably venture a guess that four of us want to talk about a certain film.
Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I want to talk about that too.
Secret Invasion's a TV show, man, not a movie.
No Secret Invasion talk. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. So
sorry.
You're gonna get booted at some point.
Yeah, you're
I think the person that's has his own time zone. Yeah, I'm okay to get booted at some point.
You do have your own time zone. You're the only one that lives there,
isn't it?
Y'all also have a different form of football, so.
Yeah, well, I don't acknowledge that football, Chris.
Travis, also, I know you're not going to use
Answer
this.
is yes.
You're not going to use this excuse, but you can't use the baby as an excuse because I watched Andor in the hospital when.
Oh, he sleeps through the night, so I can't really.
That was a questionable move on your part.
He
wasn't even podcasting at the time.
She was born.
Remember when he said he's going to go to the Flash instead of the birth of the baby?
I wanted that to happen so badly.
Well, I mean, at the time it was right before he got moved. When I had said that, which was right when Abby found out. No, it was right when Abby found out she was pregnant. It was somewhere in January, and then when the slate got changed at the Batman. So I thought at that time, oh yeah, I'm gonna go see the Flash.
Oh yeah, that teaser. Oh my god.
Yeah,
the DC films teaser.
Yeah, the DC.
All the films we're having slate this year.
Yeah, and then it immediately changed. So
scrubbed it. Never seen existence. It disappeared.
And then at that time, what did the date change to where Black Adam was going to come out? And I was like, not really sure about going to see Black Adam. Nah. Co-host for Batman News Weekly ended up buying the tickets to go see that one, and I actually got permission. It was the week after Amber.
That was a test. That was a test.
That was a test. You failed.
And you failed.
I failed. I failed a lot of tests. I was not an A student in school, so that's fine.
Welcome,
Hi, David.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing well. So we are about to talk about the final film in the DCEU is the Flash.
Aquaman doesn't want that stance. They're like, yeah, we're not involved in DCU anymore. Aquaman 2 is.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, technically, I guess you got Aquaman still, and yeah, but.
Oh god, did you see what Game just said? Flash could finish 4th this week and behind J-Law's R-rated comedy.
Hey, they're getting buy one get one to go see the Flash.
Yeah,
but that's not going to help them that much.
That
I
was
want to see that movie.
They're in John Carter territory now. With the numbers, so it's like yeah.
Okay, but see how well, because I feel like now again John Carter was what 2010, 2011.
That's impressive. You even know that.
It's actually one of my favorite adaptations to a novel. It's not the greatest adaptation, but it's still a fun adaptation to a novel.
2012, Clay.
Oh, I was close.
Yeah.
How well did it do in its first 2 weeks compared to The Flash, though?
I only saw the whole its budget and then the number. It was like 230 or 262 their total run, and they projected the Flash to be roughly around the same numbers, including budget. Which it was just like, ouch, that's pretty rough.
It's rough. Like as soon as you start seeing like ticket bonuses and stuff like that, that's not a good sign.
If an animated movie beats it in its fourth weekend,
It's going to. There's not
is-
an if. There's no
that
if to
is-
that, Brant.
I mean, hey, we'll get better numbers tomorrow and actuals on Monday, but regardless, that is god awful. And I don't care what anybody says, there is a problem with DC's movies right now because people are choosing to not go
Is
see
it
them.
DC or is it Warner Brothers in general? Because I can't remember the last big hit they had. I looked at their entire slate from when they
Dune,
announced
wasn't it?
their movies. Dune was, and that wasn't even a huge hit for them. That was like
Because
So
it
what?
released
The
good.
at
Batman?
home.
the Batman
yeah.
was.
Dune
actually
is
their
a little
last.
harder though, because did Katie just say Dune was also released at home?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
Yeah.
day and date
Little-
release. Yes.
So it's
But-
a little like I tweeted earlier today that like nothing since Aquaman for the DCEU is top 400 million worldwide, but you kind of got to leave out Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman 84.
yes, you
'cause
gotta
they
have context
at
in
home.
this too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still enough other movies that is absolutely a problem, but this is god awful, and it's a
Now-
shame because the movie's not like I like the movie. I liked it. I would if I was giving it a review, I'd be a positive one.
The
Oh,
stench is on DC itself. The
Well,
stench
I-
is definitely on DC.
I was going to ask you, David. So, in regards to a lot of the conversation that I've been seeing on Twitter, and it's kind of just people yelling in a box because we're all in the same box as far as being fans of these IPs and everything else. It's kind of hard to venture outside of our own Twitter feed to see what the range is on this kind of thing. But David, do you think that it is a DCEU thing or a DC brand thing?
It's a DC brand thing because when I talk to casual viewers and I talk to casual fans and I tell them like, hey, there's this movie I'm going to go see, and they're like, oh, is it a Marvel movie? And I say, no, it's a DC. They instantly turn off. Like they don't differentiate DC
Which is
versus
sad,
the
but it's true.
DCEU. They hear DC and go, I don't want it. Now, Aquaman is going to continue to sell mainly because you have the Momoa
it?
factor. It is not faith in the DCU. It is the Momoa factor. People love Jason Momoa. Women love him because he's Jason Momoa. Men love him because he's like
Jason Momoa.
Because he's Jason Momoa.
I met that man. He is.
I loved him in C. He was hilarious in Fast X.
he
Yeah,
is
it was.
borderline Ryan Reynolds territory at this point where he is just universally loved. Like people know that they can find something within his movies that they're going to like or something within his character. So Jason Momoa is the outlier. But as far as DC, the brand, when people hear that, they're just immediately turned off. They've lost faith.
Yeah, it's one of those things where watching, like I got to go to a private screening for which I've never done a private screening outside of a fan event thing. So I mean, when it came up on screen, there were no trailers; it just went into the movie, and so I was kind of taken aback by that. But kind of watching and listening to people around me who are quote unquote like comic book, they're like kind of our kind of people at that point. I saw more cringe and like come on moments out of them, and then that was during the time when the Muschietti news dropped that he is officially directing Brave and the Bold. At that point I told that to a person sitting next to me, and he was like, oh my god, nope, definitely not seeing that now if this is what he's going to put out at that point. Just like, yeah, I'm not getting in a debate right now of how many problems are there with that statement, but
Damn. Venom Let
General-
There Be Carnage is going to outgross the
The
Flash.
general
Oh,
audience.
Brent, don't say that.
The
Jesus
general audience
Christ.
didn't come
It's
out.
at
about-
500 million.
how about Morbius? Is Morbius
No,
still going
Morbius is
No.
Morbius. I mean,
Morbin time.
let me double
Which
check
release of Morbius?
Yeah. Morbius outgrossed Shazam: Fury of the Gods, though. But I mean, yes,
I think
technically
that's the
also-
Jared Leto factor, though.
It also technically outgrows Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman 84, but again, we don't really count those.
I agree with the sentiment that I think the DC brand is the bigger issue at this point. I think James Gunn is the one in the sense of, okay, the first official movie coming out of the gate is going to be Superman. You almost have to do that. He has to come out with a big gun of
Pun
doing.
Didn't.
I mean, no, I mean that with no pun intended or anything
Own
like
the
that.
pun. Own the pun.
Yeah, I'll own it, but I
Pun
didn't. It
intended,
wasn't
pun
necessary. Yeah,
intended.
but it's one of those things where if the brand is damaged and James Gunn's a positive figure in the community and people hear James Gunn, they think a positive at that point, particularly if it's Guardians or even the Suicide Squad. Having that is basically it's an all-in kind of thing. You know, Creature Commandos is not necessarily the all-in.
It's not on anybody's radar.
It's not going to be on anyone's radar.
That's animated, right?
That's animated
Yeah,
on
that's-
HBO.
That's. I mean, it's on HBO. We're not going to have box office numbers to compare to it.
That's
No.
more rewarding the DCU fans, though, Chris. The Commando.
it
You
is.
might see him in
Okay,
live action.
so-
You'll be like, "Oh my
but-
god, I remember them in animation." Kind of.
But it's one of those things where, you know, watching the movie at that point, I'm with Brent. I have a more positive look at the Flash. I have little issues here or there. I finally today settled on where I'm putting it on my rankings at that point, and that's still only seeing it once. But I think the DC brand is damaged. There's so many different ways we can point to who and what is responsible. It's not just one singular person. It's not one singular movie. It was mismanagement from basically the motions that happened after and in between BVS that started the problems.
Yep.
I
That
want
can
to.
agree with.
I'm gonna want to switch or shift the same conversation somewhere else, but I do want to ask, like, so with the talk around Flash though, with it being like you said, the brand itself is the one that's kind of tarnished and everything else. How would you fix that? Because again, Superman is big. People do or can guess, okay, Superman is with DC. But what's the next movie? You know,
Honestly, they're doing it right. It's a James Gunn written and directed Superman movie that they're going to plaster from the guy that brought the Guardians of the Galaxy all over the marketing. Like that is the only
Facts.
thing they could possibly do otherwise would be a solo grounded detective noir Batman story in the DCEU, but they're not going to do that because they have Matt Reeves Batman.
Well, no, I mean after Superman though, because Superman I feel like can be a big hit regardless of if it was something outside of the DCU or whatnot.
Not a guarantee, though.
Not a
no,
guarantee.
not a
anymore.
guarantee with
Not even
Superman.
close.
Unfortunately, it's not
On
a guarantee.
TV, Superman has a very long, successful history on TV. But for some reason, the movies, you know, it's a little different.
On the game says only 6 DCU movies were ever made a net profit from their theatrical run: Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad from 2016, BVS, Shazam, and Man of Steel.
I think one of the biggest things of how you start fixing this is, first thing that they've screwed up to begin with, stick to your guns. No, another pun not intended and intended at that point. But that's where I'm saying it started going off the rails, where they got scared at that point. I mean, yeah, at some point you may have to shift the focus at that point to figure out things weren't working, but if James Gunn and Peter Safran know that not everything's gonna be the biggest slam dunk hit. They're not aiming for that. They're aiming for, as they said since the beginning, there's not going to be 20 different cooks in the kitchen. We are the ones who are determining what it is. We're going to give creative freedom to an extent, but the infamous 10-year plan, but they have to stick with what the plan is. Even if it's not as successful as it is, they have to show that this is what we're doing. Again, I know GA is going to be, but they already accept the fact that the brand is damaged. They're going to have a more uphill battle than Marvel Studios did at that point. Marvel Studios had a different uphill battle, not comparison.
What could help them, though, is Joker 2 and the Batman. If those are actually anywhere near the hits that they were, the previous ones,
I agree.
that can actually give you a bit of brand momentum, because the general audience is not going to distinguish between DC Elseworlds and DCU just initially, Brent. Maybe once you get a few films, I don't think general audience could distinguish the MCU after film 4. I think it took building up to at least the Avengers again for the audience to know. Like,
I
okay,
mean,
this is the
by film
favorite
4,
character.
you have Thor, which is giving you Coulson and all those in the actual movie.
I know, but I'm just saying the general audience people, because like us, we're going to know like immediately. But I still think the general audience people, like people show up some films asking, is Spider-Man in this and a Batman film? Like you do have people like I've actually heard that in theaters before. So it's
Sure,
not, I'm
people
not shocked.
people say that, but I think when we say those things, and goodness knows I've said them too, we're underselling the general audience here. At this point, in a world like with all these multiversal hits that we've had lately, Multiverse of Madness, 900 million, Everything Everywhere, seemingly winning every Oscar, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse winning an Oscar, No Way Home making almost 2 billion. Like people understand different multiverses and stuff at this point. I think they can tell the difference. Just like I think when we get the Batman and Robin or Brave and the Bold Batman, they're gonna know that's the difference between that and the Pattinson version. At this point, I'm starting to give people more credit.
Yeah, same.
Some of the TikToks you guys have sent me, I'm not going to give people more credit. I'm going to be honest with you. Gonna be honest with
You
you.
can always find
Gonna
some
be honest
idiots,
with you.
and you got to remember on TikTok, man, some of that stuff is just for the laughs. It's not real.
I mean,
because it's
it
on the
really
internet.
is. But Katie, I want to start with you with this question. So with my co-host on Batman News Weekly, we've been discussing the quote unquote confusion with the end of the Flash and what James Gunn had said on his announcement video for the slate moving forward. So James Gunn said that Flash resets everything. It goes into Blue Beetle, which goes into Aquaman, and then he says the first DCU movie is going to be Superman, with Creature Commandos being the first project. There's a lot of firsts. First this. He even said on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, Blue Beetle is the first character that's going to be introduced into the DCU. So there has been a couple people. I'm not going to say a majority because I'm not entirely sure. But, well, that's the thing, S-Bubs. So spoilers for a movie that nobody's watching, apparently.
Oh, stop.
With Clooney at the end of the movie, I saw this as the end of the DCEU. And because of how many multiversal stories that we've been told, the DCU in my mind is just going to be its own thing. Now, James Gunn may introduce some things that have connective tissue and whatnot. We're not entirely sure until we actually start seeing some of those projects.
He said on that same podcast that Waller was going ahead, and so that is some people that are being introduced in DCU.
Yeah, and then he also said, somebody asked him, "Oh, well, what about Peacemaker? How are you going to introduce Peacemaker with everything changing?" And he says, "Oh, you'll have to wait and see."
That show's so good.
But Katie, I want to ask you: is there any confusion to you when you see all of this happening with the Flash, knowing that the DCU is going to start? Like, is there any confusion on like who you think Batman is going to be? Do you think it is going to be Clooney? Do you think that like Creature Commandos is still like the first project, even though he said that Superman was? Like, is there any confusion over that, or you don't care? Like, that's another thing.
Like I can see it from both ways because like I grew up and DC was like the thing in my house. Marvel was never a thing. Like we always did Justice League, the Justice League animated show. Like I had Justice League like kids graphic novels type things. So like my entire family loves the DC. So I got those questions after Flash came out and they were like, "Oh, so is Clooney's gonna be Batman?" And I was like, "He's not gonna be Batman." And they're like, "Well, that's what the movie says." I don't think he wants to come back and do Batman. I think this was kind of like a
but it was so funny.
Clooney is already
that Batman credit card. He will.
That's right.
Clooney is already going to think he tarnished DC again. Like, unfortunately,
for somebody who actually saw footage of Keaton at the end, it was a shock to me that it was Clooney. I'm just saying.
I didn't know that was coming, and
I saw
so
you saw.
Yeah, I was footage.
Like, I'm one-upping you.
But
the story time.
I think for me there is a little confusion because it just doesn't seem very clear as to like what is like the true plan, because like how can like you have like, oh, your first project is Creature Commandos, but then like Superman is the first movie, but then like Blue Beetle is a character. So what does that make Blue Beetle the movie? So like I can't remember the main actor for Blue Beetle, but is that like he's the only
Sholo.
one going to transfer from that movie? So it's stuff like that where I'm like, I think things could be a little more clear.
I have thought for a long time they need it, as much as it would suck to lose Momoa as Aquaman, lose Godot as Wonder Woman. They should just pull it, just end it, recast literally every single person, actor, character involved. Yes, have fun with the legacy casting down the line, but in general, I think they should just start from scratch. Unfortunately, we would then lose awesome things like what I am guessing Waller is going to be, and presumably that Peacemaker season 2 will be. But as much as I enjoy Peacemaker, I'm willing to do it.
Brent, we are in total agreement on that. If we're going to reboot it all, is my opinion as well. It sucked to lose Peacemaker season 2 and the Waller show, but even recast the characters. Just put people in as different things. You can still use those actors, just use them in different roles, even down the line. You don't have to use them right away, but you can use them down the line in different roles.
I think if you use them for different roles, that just draws up more confusion later on down the line. Like, oh, is this Aquaman in disguise? Like,
Well,
so.
and so that brings up another thing is we heard last week that, or technically, I think this week, early this week, that Aquaman is doing reshoots. And we saw earlier in the year that they were already doing pickups with Ben Affleck, changing the cameo to what we had heard was Michael Keaton. So now we have to guess, is this movie going to be before, after, or during The Flash? To where, is there going to be a Ben Affleck scene in Aquaman anymore, or is there
No,
not?
I thought
I hope not.
I thought I read that it was cut out, but I think this is something else you got to talk about entirely. Is WBD's financial state after these string of not great movies? They're looking pretty ripe that they could end up selling. Is there a chance that somebody could come in and scrap everything that you're like? I'm a little worried about
Yeah.
that now. Which like.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't happen, like, because you guys have been saying, like, you need to stick with the plan now and go forward with it. Is there any trepidation after seeing the stuff about WBD this week from any of you guys?
I don't think
That's-
Gunn's going to get the opportunity to fulfill it.
Nope.
That's the biggest
I-
thing. Is Gunn doesn't have money.
Yeah.
The
That's the
studio
other
has
thing,
money.
Katie. That's the other thing is, like, some of these films you want them to be like expensive. You want the Superman film to be pretty expensive, to be honest with you, just for the CG and effects alone.
Nah.
You're not gonna. You say nah, but
Bring
yes,
it down. Bring it below 150. You
I mean, again,
absolutely could do it.
You can go with the Superman Lives route and just not have him in the cape, don't have him fly, and then find a giant
was-
spider in the third act.
I mean,
That was
we-
so
we-
good.
we saw Jack Black be Superman on TikTok. I think we can just do fine with
yes,
Superman
yeah.
with
What
the lower
did we just?
budget.
Yes, that's what people think, and then we get Black Adam or
Well-
some of these other things.
Travis, we said this on DC Alliance a while ago that, you know, there could be a possibility that whoever at the time would jump in could get everything erased with the fact that WB was kind of going in the shitter. I am gonna be optimistic and say that Gunn will have his chance, but I think that he does not go after his he doesn't go another 4 years, because I do think WB is really looking at selling.
And I think ultimately the smart thing would be for WB to like recoup costs, is like it needs to sell off an IP realistically, whether it's Game of Thrones or whether it's DC Studios. Like, as much as that would suck to like kind of see it go somewhere else, what would y'all think? And like, if a studio had to pick up DC Studios, what studio would you like to see? David, let's start
Apple or
with you, 'cause-
Amazon? Oh yeah, go ahead, David.
I'd be okay with them going to Amazon. I think Amazon makes good choices with what they do and they make good allocation of their money. Like they're very smart with their choices. And I think that they would be smart with their release schedule and everything else. I don't really see another avenue for them without accidentally going the Marvel of the past where they end up selling too much to too many people and then make it impossible 5 years out to bring anyone back together. So that is something that I don't want them to do. If you're going to sell, wholesale a group instead of just having, okay, well, you can have the Batman family, you can have Superman, you can have this, you can have that. And then as things progress and you get back on your feet, now you're stuck for the next 20 years that as long as someone keeps making crappy movies, you're not getting your characters back.
Unfortunately, they'll make more money that way. But I agree with you, but they'll make more money that way.
Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hello, everyone. I
Hey.
appreciate the Patreon link, and my social anxiety is off the charts right now, so bear with me.
All right.
I
It's all
respect
good.
that, Jim. I respect
All good, bud.
But I would either go Apple or Amazon. I said it even before. I said it back in 2021. I think that I would really appreciate it if Apple got a hold of anything DC or the majority of DC, just because as far as their streaming service goes, they're coming up with really great originals, but
Yeah.
they don't have any large IP like that. Sony has Spider-Man. Amazon just did an animation deal with DC. They have Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is kind of really wonky now with all of the stuff that is selling and everything else, but it's still something that they have. Disney has Marvel,
And Star Wars.
and Star Wars. I think that I think Apple would be really fun to see with DC, and plus I would get.
They're not buying just DC though. Like most of these people, that's the thing. I know Katie's talking about sell off DC to recoup costs, but you're going to do more of what Zaslav is doing, which is sell off rights instead of the actual IP. And you're going to want to get your IP set up. Like you're talking about Harry Potter as another franchise, getting that going again. That and
That's
having the
never
DCU,
going to happen. I don't
that
think
and
that's ever going to
that
happen.
and having the DCU actually healthy. That's two healthy franchises, and then you have like possible, like it's way more attractive. If you sell DC, when you sell WB, your price has gone down tenfold because that is one of the gems. Because people are going to want to get that, right? So, and with the streaming big ones like Apple, they're going to want the extra content. So you're going to want the films and backlog that WB has in their catalog. So
that's why I think they would make more money if they sold separately. It's one of the gems, yeah. But what's the gem in there? It's Batman. It's the same reason why Sony passed on buying all of Marvel for $25 million.
yeah, and how
and only
was
did
that
Spider-Man
deal?
for whatever it was, $7 or $8 million.
How was that deal looking?
Well, for
back at
Sony,
that?
in hindsight, yeah, it was a poor decision. But I'm not saying it's the right choice. I'm saying they're gonna. If they were, let's just say they are selling, they're going to make more money by selling Batman individually, Superman individually, and then everybody else. That's pretty much the groups you would come out of it. Ideally, the same people would buy them all, bulk discount,
Well,
everything.
that's what
Let's go.
you're not
but
going to get the separation
gonna
of
do it.
characters, Brant. You're going to have the.
Oh, I
like,
think
five brands.
that there are certain production companies or studios that would 100% buy Batman by himself. And
Look at the sports TV deals, though. They're going to throw like, here's $20 billion for your entire what they're beholden to shareholders. So when you get an offer, just like Twitter was sold, you have to present that regardless of whoever offers it, if it's high enough. So you can get somebody come in and swoop in and get everything. We have that kind of thing.
It's
going
possible, but if they can get more money by parting it out, that's better for the shareholders.
yeah.
It's not better for us, but it's better for them.
So
And-
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was saying, in the reality of this thing, they're not going to sell DC at this point. They're not. They're selling. They're selling the content. They're selling all the different things because at this point,
Yeah,
they'd
all the
rather-
movies and backlog of stuff.
the backlog of stuff that they can really just make money. It's the same reason why they spun off wherever Westworld landed and some of the other shows at that point. They will hold on to the IP that they know. And you're right, Brent. Yeah, the biggest IP in there within DC is Batman. They know they can make money on that at that point. But the whole DC label, they've just created a studio. They're going to give it a shot at that point. I understand what you're saying, Katie, with the Harry Potter thing. But they still consider that a successful franchise. Like they're going to hold on to the IP. They'll spin off and sell off the the streaming rights to different people, and it'll just be like, oh, it's going to be on this platform for about 3 months. It's going to be on this platform for about 3 months, because they feel they can make more money with it. But when it comes down to it, Zavlov understands, and the rest of the executives understand, like, the IP is what is worth it. And you talked about it, Clay, when it comes to DC Comics, that's going to be another question of what's going to happen with the publication.
Well, and here's the thing also, and it sucks for the people who work for DC Comics, but nobody wants the publication of the comics without the rights to the TV and movies. That's just how it's going to go. It's been a concern for a lot of readers for a very long time now. And looking back, I just remembered a couple TikToks that I made back when Zaslav was first, introduced as the person who was going to buy, or Discovery was first going to buy WB. I said, "There's no way they would sell." I'm thinking that I'm going to have to eat some crow in the future, for sure.
Well, Clay, look at all the misses they had. They took their swing and they were not successful in a lot of these films. They hit losses in a lot, and that kind of their numbers are not great in terms of what their deficits are.
Now, I don't know which one of y'all asked the 44 billion.
I did.
I believe, wasn't that in a Variety article or Hollywood Reporter recently?
44 billion for DC.
No. He's saying if they were to be offered that much, because that's how much they are in debt.
That is insane. That's insane. That is insane. Do we know how much money Disney paid for Marvel and Star Wars? 4 billion a piece. You think they're going to get 11?
This isn't Elon Musk trying to be, trying to buy Twitter here. Ironically, that's the exact same number.
Really?
Yeah, it was close to it.
Wow.
44 billion.
40 something, yeah.
Well, Brent,
But he lost about half of that in value.
The next NBA deal is rumored to be, like, for TV rights, is rumored to be 24 billion. So
I without knowing definitively, I bet the NBA is making a lot more money than DC Comics.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like, you're talking about throwing around, like, these streaming services will throw around numbers.
I'm just talking about this specific scenario.
Okay, so On the Game did make a joke about the Elon Musk thing. I am gonna see, because I thought recently they did talk about. And I say they as in the trades, as far as the higher up ones, Variety, Hollywood Reporter. I believe they started again talking about, I think it was in the article that was stating that they were selling everything off, that they still are in a very heavy amount of debt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This was the fear that a lot of us were wondering it was going to be true, in the sense of Zavlov's basically taking what he can, breaking it apart, and then selling it years later. It seems to be another piece of the possibility of that happening. I'm not saying I'm thinking it's happening, but it's another, walking down the pathway of that idea.
I agree with you, Chris. It's not great, but like I said, when you get strings of misses in film, you're like, we're going to give a go at that, and because they had no films at the end of last year. I can remember them touting, like, 2023 is we're going to push a lot of films, and bam, they've been miss after miss after miss. And
can someone pull up a list of, outside of what we know is coming left from DC, what's WB got the rest of this year?
I was looking at it the other night.
I got it.
So real quick, while you're bringing that up, I just wanted to clarify the TV, movie, and music deal that they made is approximately $500 million that they are going to be getting out of all of that purchase. And then it says here that overall deal will help in the pay down of $49.5 billion debt.
Anything will help.
Yeah.
Anything.
So
Yeah.
On the Game, it was a dig, but you were very close.
Yes.
So for 2023, they've got Barbie, Meg 2, Blue Beetle, The Nun 2, Dune Part 2, Wonka, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and The Color Purple.
So out of
Wonka's
those,
gonna eat it.
Barbie and Dune seem to be probably the biggest chances, and probably Dune stands at the top of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna be surprised with what's gonna happen with Barbie.
It's going to top Flash.
100%.
Do you think it'll top Oppenheimer?
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
there's a chance of that for sure.
I think it will.
Especially with
much.
Oppenheimer being rated R.
And isn't Oppenheimer like a 3-hour-long movie or something like that? Surely
Yeah.
Barbie's not going to be like that. It's going to get way more screenings and it's going to be more family friendly.
People won't come out crying and feeling devastated, apparently.
Well, they might, but
I always love coming out of films like that.
I feel like
Barbie's
we know how
dead,
Oppenheimer
why?
ends. So
What if this is going to be happening right next door? People are watching Oppenheimer and they're hearing this upbeat beat. You know what's playing next door? Barbie.
the trailer they played before the Flash actually looked kind of funny. Not gonna lie.
I agree.
As Bubs is saying, predictions are Barbie is looking like 100 million opening weekend, while Oppenheimer being 80 million.
Ooh.
Game
I just
Aquaman
tried
2
looking up
depended
Barbie and
on
I found
China.
predictions of half that number.
Are
But it
either-
may have been an old article.
To the patrons, are either of you guys excited for the final two DC films? DC films of this year, Blue Beetle or Aquaman? I'm really curious.
Meh. Aquaman, I think, will just be a fun ride, but I don't expect anything from it. Aquaman will be just a standard Aquaman movie. I think you're going to get your comedy. I think you're going to get your Jason Momoa hits. But other than that, I don't think they're going to do much with it. And I think they're purposely not going to do much with it because they probably don't want this is where we could have gone with this. You just want that clean break. All right, let's move into what we got going up next instead of, well, we're ending on a high note with what we could have done. Nope, just let's let Momoa be Momoa. Let's get that Aquaman money. Let's hope no one gets mad at Amber Heard and boycotts because of that and call it a day and move on.
I think they've
It's
cut
been
her out
long enough for
completely.
that.
You say that, but I do feel like still from what we've been hearing about Aquaman 2, it's not going to be pretty. Like I don't think it's going to open very well. I think it's going to be equal to Shazam 2 and Flash.
But that's what the prediction was for the last Aquaman too, though, that it was going to be disastrous and end up being $1 billion film. I still can't really explain how that worked, but
I loved
Jim-
Aquaman. Like,
Jim, what are your thoughts?
Kind of in the same boat. You know, I do think Aquaman, because I mean, I was listening to the show earlier, and when you're all talking about Momoa and the flat and the post credit scene, yeah, Momoa's Momoa. Everyone loves Momoa, so that alone is worth the price there. I do think, with
especially
Blue
after
Beetle-
Fast 11.
Oh yeah, like Dante Reyes is the Joker, and it's fantastic.
He really was. He so was the Joker.
Yeah, but like with Aquaman 2, I'll give it a
Better than
shot.
Arthur Fleck.
My girlfriend, she I think it's from the Justice League trailer where Cyborg's flying. He grabs Arthur. He's like, my man. Like, she quotes it all the time because it looks just like kind of not ridiculous but fun. So I think Aquaman 2, it'll probably, I don't know if it'll make $1 billion again, but it'll probably do well, all things considered. Blue Beetle, I am interested in, because if I remember correctly, I saw a headline that Gunn may have said it is connected to the next phase.
and the Inside of You, he did a podcast with Michael Rosenbaum. It's really good. It's on
Okay.
YouTube as well.
It's a good episode.
It's a good
Yeah.
episode to watch, and he says on there that it's going to be connected to the DCU. He doesn't say much more, but that's all he says.
If that is the case, then I'll be honest, I trust James Gunn. I'm excited for that because I liked Flash. I'm still wondering if the rest of the multiverse is gone, but
I think with the creation of the DCU, no, honestly, but
yeah,
I think
yeah,
it's an easy thing for them to always have in the background. Nothing destroyed it. Nothing in that movie said it got destroyed. It just exists, and we're just to kind of accept the fact that they can always pull that string whenever they need to. And right now, I'll have to say that DC don't need to pull that string for the at least through chapters 1 and 2. They don't need to touch it.
No, you're right. I do think that John Schnepp would have liked the end of that movie.
Yes, God bless
Agreed.
that man.
Agreed.
So how hard do y'all think it would have been? They pulled in like all this like old footage and I'm sure like CGI stuff and everything. How hard would it have been to truly put a scene from the Flash TV show onto one of those multiverses and have it just spin around?
They would have needed. It's a Warner Brothers production, I think, but when it started, CBS had partial ownership over the CW. I'm not sure about right now. They probably would have needed some sort of permission from CBS, I'm guessing. Whatever. I don't care how hard it was. I think they should have done it. I think
It was easy.
I mean, when they announced Ezra Miller was playing the Flash, basically like right when season 1 of the Flash, I think the pilot
Second
had
episode.
just,
It was
second
it was
episode?
one of the
Second
two
episode.
that was a
Second
slap
episode.
in the face right there. And then he goes on to have a 9-season run, which sure it fell off a cliff quality wise the last couple of seasons, but still you don't have a 9-season run of anything if it wasn't successful in the ways that studios care about financially.
Yep.
It's to me, it's just a big slap in the face to I mean, they were set up. They could have just mimicked the scene from Ezra's point of view that we got in Crisis. They could have reused the part of the same footage even.
I mean, they could have easily, like, the general audience has no freaking clue who Jay Garrick is unless it was John Wesley Shipp or if it was going to be Grant Gustin Flash. Those are the only two people they would.
Well, apparently the Jay Garrick that they used was a deep fake, like altered younger version of
That is
John
one of
Wesley
the
Shipp.
worst deep fakes of John Wesley Shipp I have ever seen.
Yeah, I meant to
The
ask my
second
neighbor
time I
about
saw
that.
it, I was making a point to really look at that. I can see it, but it's not well done.
Yeah.
Because
No.
I thought it was Teddy Sears.
I
That's
agree.
what I thought as well.
I
Agreed.
Yeah.
fully
Which-
agree.
You know what? Frankly, I wouldn't put it past them. Oh, we're gonna. It's Zoom. You put Zoom in the movie.
Like, really? Of all.
Brent
I
is
mean,
right, though.
he-
He could have easily just pulled out, like he jumped his head into a couple worlds. He could have just stepped into that scene that we saw in the Flash, and we could have got it in the film. I don't understand why they didn't do that.
I would have totally looked past it. I would have still been bothered that it wasn't Grant, but I would have been a lot more forgiving if it was John Wesley Shipp. I don't care. That's one of the worst deep fakes ever. They can call it John Wesley Shipp. That's not John Wesley Shipp.
No, he should have been wearing the same thing he burned up in Crisis. He
they
should
could have
done
used John Wesley Shipp from the '90s Flash.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that still gives us a tie to the TV stuff. Like it, I think. To me, it's kind of a deep cut because the CW audience is relatively small, but it's a hell of a lot bigger than the people who know about the Nicolas Cage thing, which was hilarious. But man, that's got to be the deepest cut in any comic book movie I've ever
To
seen.
your point, Brent, you don't make the cover of Entertainment Weekly celebrating the end of your 9-season run, and they make it a cover story at that point.
Yeah.
I agree. It is a small audience, but it's a big enough audience, even at the end of its run, to warrant a goodbye
I think it
farewell
would.
issue.
Honestly, I think it would have put a dent in the box office enough to be like,
Would've helped.
noticeable.
I don't know about that.
I think it would have. I
Yeah.
think it would have been noticeable enough to where it's like, okay, yeah, at least they're getting this number, but it's not what we're getting now. But about that Nicolas Cage, because Joe, you still haven't answered my question that I texted you the day you saw this damn movie.
What did I tell you? I think I said I hadn't seen it yet.
So I knew about Nicolas Cage because it got spoiled for me. Still an amazing show. The fact that we got to actually see it.
I cheered.
Joe,
I cheered. I clapped.
So
I
I
loved
will
it,
ask
loved
you
it.
again. You lying sack of shit. Did you know that he was in?
if you go back to some DCAs, I hinted at it.
Yeah. I knew you.
asking for it.
Yeah,
knowing
no.
full well it was coming.
And I asked you then, hey, go ahead and confirm it because I know it's there. Just tell me, and you
He
still did.
can't
Yeah,
answer
he
to
can't
protect
do
the
that.
innocent.
Exactly.
It was in text. Nobody's gonna know.
It
Now-
was in
now- now
it
you're
was
putting
in
it out there.
written form. No.
So I have a deep cut question then, since we're on that. With the audience that the Flash is intended for now, and going back to talking about Grant Gustin in that Flash and all the various cameos, do you think that with the audience of the current Flash, more people would have recognized Grant Gustin as a Flash than people who recognize Christopher Reeve as Superman?
Well, considering
Ooh.
Christopher
For the
Reeves-
intended audience of this movie.
That's a good point with the Keaton Batman performance as well.
Considering
That
Christopher
boosted
Reeves
up.
was basically a 2D image going into a 3D world, yes. It's I said this as soon as I walked out. I still enjoyed The Flash, by the way, but my first comment about the movie is I can't believe after 8 years the movie still isn't finished. It's like the way that they did all of the cameos. I'm sorry, the fact that it's a artistic choice is a load of shit.
David, let me put it this way. Before I joined the GUA, I had no idea who Christopher Reeves was. And like I had never seen his Superman movie. I've seen the first one now, and I haven't gone through and watched the rest of them. But if this had come out 3 years ago before GUA, I would have no idea. I would have been like, who the crap is that? Like with the Supergirl that was beside him, I had no idea who that was. I had no idea who it was supposed to be.
Do you know now?
Nope.
I did not look up the Supergirl person.
Well,
Helen
Katie, have
Slater.
you seen the show Supergirl?
Like Melissa Benoist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Benoist.
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 sorry.
And other people, it's Reeve, not Reeves.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's not you,
but-
just Katie.
It's-
You weren't the
yeah,
only one.
absolutely.
You weren't the only one. You weren't
But
the only
no.
one.
So the person who plays Supergirl's adopted mother,
Mhm.
that is the original Supergirl.
Helen
That's
Slater, which
Helen Slater.
both Helen Slater and Nick Cage came in to do mocap. So that was actually them.
Oh, I believe it. Totally.
I
believe it.
mean, it didn't look like her, unfortunately. A lot
What?
of,
He aged.
I mean,
Obviously.
DH, 2D, AI, whatever.
Did you
they
at least
use.
like?
I bought
Did
it.
you really, what about the Cage Superman?
I thought
Did
it
you
looked
like that?
completely like her. I thought they took footage
Me?
from the original
Yeah.
Supergirl movie.
Oh, I love seeing Nick Cage. Like the
I
only
didn't think
thing
that looked bad. CG.
The only thing that didn't look bad was the spider. Out of everything in that entire scene, the only thing
Thanagarian
that they
snare
actually
beast.
worked
Yeah,
on.
you're exactly right. You're
His
exactly
hair.
right.
Hey, what about his hair?
Yep.
Come on, his hair was pretty flowy.
I love that it's basically the 90s Superman with the mullet.
I think
Yeah.
my
Yes.
only really small complaint about that is I wanted to see the original light up suit. That was the
Yes.
thing I was hoping they were gonna do. So hoping.
I honestly thought as soon as he was gonna like turn around that it was gonna light up.
Yes.
But no.
I have not listened to Fat Man Beyond yet. That's on my to do list tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to hearing that discussion.
I'm halfway through. It's pretty solid.
Good.
So I just posted this in the GUA not so long ago. But in regards to David, your question with Christopher Reeve and being recognized as Superman, and Travis, you brought up the fact that Keaton's Batman was not perceived well because it
it didn't boost the box office like some
Exactly.
people were saying on Twitter before.
apparently from Kevin Smith himself said that the studio wanted to bring in Bale for the movie and he refused.
That's
for
not
the
surprising.
ending. For the ending is what he said, I think. Not for
Did
the
he
whole
say for
film.
the ending?
Yeah, for the Clooney type thing is what I've read anyway, but that, I didn't
Okay.
hear, so I got to listen to Fat Man.
Okay.
I'd probably only want to see Bale if he had the Keaton role, not the
Yeah,
Clooney role,
same-
because it
same
would just
here.
piss me off if I saw him knowing that nothing's going to be.
Especially
Come
with
on,
how
guys.
he ended the last film that he was in. Just chilling out. He just shows up in limo again. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
So on the Batman line, I had actually seen this on Facebook, and everybody in the GUA made fun of me for it. But it was before I had seen the movie. So what did
yeah.
y'all think about Ben Affleck not getting credits in the credit? Like he's not listed as part of the cast at all.
I didn't make fun of you. I confirmed
I
that.
didn't even see
We-
that.
I-
He played
I-
for fake-
I made fun of you for Facebook.
I don't think I made fun of you for that. I want that on the record.
But I was asking some people this, and I'm not sure if this is true or not. If somebody has an example,
Where I
please
saw
let
his
me know.
name in the credits. So
But I've heard that cameos, and I don't think Ben Affleck is necessarily a cameo because of the amount of scenes he had.
Yeah.
Apparently, cameos don't necessarily need to be credited as long as they are
That's-
compensated.
I thought I saw it,
That's-
but I made it up. It's not.
So that's true, Clay. But typically, like your cameos are going to be like a one-liner or like no speaking parts. Like you said, Affleck has two speaking scenes in this, so I wouldn't consider that a cameo at all.
So is this a situation where IMDb would say it's Ben Affleck and in parentheses uncredited?
Probably,
I think so. Maybe.
but I
But again,
specifically
IMDb can be altered. That's
Yes,
the
it
only-
can.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of times they use uncredited.
I specifically watched through like the entire credits, and I even told Matt, I was like, okay, we need to be looking for any mention of Affleck.
I thought I
Inter-
saw him, but no, you're absolutely right.
I mean,
It's not.
I'm the big thing is it also comes down to, like you said, if there's a certain SAG rule or anything like that of what it is. I still haven't been able to find it, but also it comes down to what his deal is at that point. Did he want to have it in there or not? I mean, a lot of them, it comes down to what their choices are. If he's getting paid and said, "Nah, I don't need credit at this point. This is what I want instead."
What
that
about
may be it.
Nicolas Cage and Gal Gadot? IMDb has both of them and Ben Affleck all listed as uncredited, and George Clooney.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
Which
it's
is
to
weird.
not spoil these cameos. I don't know because like
People
Well,
on
Momoa-
IMDb don't care about that.
Momoa
Bale-
got spoiled by the credits. Like I knew about the Momoa in credit before he showed up because they had
Also
him listed
uncredited.
for his song before the credits didn't even happen. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching the credits, and then I see this song performed by Jason Momoa, and I'm started thinking, when did he perform a song in this? And then boom, it cuts to it. I was like, okay, guess he's about to start singing.
But
Yeah, and
I was
Clooney
gonna say-
Clooney
Oh.
was credited in there because like I saw like assistant to George Clooney and stuff in there. So he was fully credited too. So it's just interesting.
so it's then that says to me it was Affleck and his representation that made a decision and worked it out with WB. Instead of getting no credit, he got something else instead.
yeah,
That's what
maybe
that says to me.
yeah,
maybe a
that,
producer
yeah.
role or something.
And the idea that he is like angry and is gonna sue WB or whatnot, like I
No.
would not believe that whatsoever.
They would not make that big of. I mean, in WB make a lot of whiffs. I'd be very surprised if they make a whiff against Ben Affleck at this point like that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty big whiff.
What about everyone's thoughts on Spider-Verse potentially becoming #1 in the box office again? Like after so many weeks, anyone
Not
surprised about that?
surprised.
Not at all.
No. Yeah, I think more so it's going to be #1 because of the fact that people are finding out that other versions of the same movie
Yeah.
are out there,
Yeah.
and people want to see if they can see both versions.
I thought about going back today just for that reason. I had a break in my day and I was like, I got a couple hours to kill. I was
Should've
like,
done it.
maybe I can just go and watch it again and see if I remember something differently on watch number 3.
And instead, he's hanging out with us.
I haven't looked at any of. I don't know what the difference is. I've been busy all week. What's the different? What's the two difference?
There's just random scenes throughout that are different. One in particular that people have been sharing is when Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, asks for backup near the time that they're going to be chasing down Miles Morales.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name. The hologram,
Layla.
Lila. She is like, "Are you sure?" Like, what was that? What was that? What was that? And then, like at the end of that conversation, instead of giving a fist bump, she like does a selfie with a filter with bunny ears.
That's not the backup for Chasing Miles. That's the backup when they're dealing with Vulture.
Yeah.
Vulture.
So if you go to rewatch it, make sure you're looking in the right scene.
right spot. Sorry.
I'll forgive you.
Because
I had the
only
selfie version.
I don't
I
remember.
don't know what other scenes there are though, other than that one.
I
So-
saw a TikTok that allegedly said what some of them were, but I saw no credibility. Like I didn't know the name or anything, so I didn't even share it with anybody. I don't think.
I mean, Sony's
Maybe
putting it
I
out there.
sent it to David.
They're putting it back on premium screens though this week as well. So they're putting that out there as well.
Oh my gosh, that's so bad. I mean, it's a great movie.
It is.
I think it's the best movie I've seen this year. So
Oh, agreement.
Yeah.
I don't know. You haven't seen Transformers: Rise of the Beast yet.
no,
I
I
have.
haven't.
I have.
I'll
I've
wait till
only
it drops
seen
on
that movie
VOD.
so much.
I've only seen the first two Transformers movies. So I would.
What?
That's several I'd
That's
have to
basically
catch
all
up.
I vaguely
Watch
remember.
Bumblebee. Bumblebee is really good.
I mean, they
Bumblebee's
say
very
that,
good.
but I have to watch everything before it. That's the
No,
way
you
my
don't
brain
No, you
works.
don't.
No, you don't.
Actually,
It's
you don't.
prequel.
It's the
It's
way my
prequel.
brain works.
It's not Fast and Furious. You don't
If
have
I
to-
haven't seen it, release order every time.
Well,
The man's
I'll
about-
just say
the-
I'll just say this now that I just checked. I will probably be watching that tonight.
Why did you check that?
I checked a certain website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
The again, Brent will do that, and he's going to break his rule if a certain cameo is really confirmed at that point. He's about to break another rule of his about director's cuts.
I am. It's true.
Oh, that cameo. I hope that I can't. I'm speechless. I can't even put into words if that.
That'll be a
actually happens.
Patreon, ladies and gentlemen. If he breaks his rule, that's going to be a Patreon for Marvel Alliance.
I still need him to watch the Daredevil director's cut.
Yeah,
Ben Affleck
someone needs to
Daredevils.
catch up with some of the
So
rumors.
good.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk Spider-Verse at that point. Thoughts on Spider-Verse? We'll get positive as we're heading into out of the negative.
I loved it. Didn't think that I was gonna be able to go see it to begin with, and then a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I have this slot open on Friday. You either say yes now or you don't go." And so I was like, "I'll say yes now, and then ask for forgiveness later if Abby says no." And then she said yes. So thankfully, I did not have to ask for forgiveness. But yeah, I loved it. I will say this though, people that have been saying it's like the best Marvel movie and the best movie other than the first one, I still agree with some people that say it's not a completed movie. Like we're not getting the complete story, like in my mind. So I say it's a good movie.
It
Two.
But
was
I-
announced as a part one. What did we expect?
I know, yeah.
It's like the ending of Empire.
I do hate the rule of like, oh yeah, we're doing part 1 and part 2 now, like, because that's just like been the whole thing, and it goes back to like book adaptations and everything, but it's like you've got enough room, I feel like, to like tell a completed story at least.
As a fan of animation, I'm going to jump in for a second. Of like a lot of studios like mandated only a certain amount of minutes. I know DC was at around 70. There's a Superman. They did the Death of Superman early on, and you could not fit nearly that entire story into one part, and it really suffered. It kind of got destroyed critically for that reason, that you can't jam pack Superman Lives. So they did the 2 parts after, and I'm appreciative of giving the animators at least more time to tell their story, because normally you're cutting stuff and doing shortcuts when it comes to telling stories in animation. If you're putting them up in film anyway, not normally with TV.
Yeah.
What do you think? Have you seen it, Jim?
Oh yeah, of course, I've seen it opening night. Like it's fantastic. My favorite part, not of the movie, but like the day or so after, seeing all the little Easter eggs about, especially with Miles from the first movie, a simple throwaway sequence where it goes from purple and green to red and blue. That completely blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, they set this up. Now, to be fair, in the last 72 hours, some of the stories about how the animation production was dealt with and all that it hasn't put a damper on the movie, but now I'm like, oh, it absolutely is not being released next year. There's no way. And I didn't think that was going to be the case anyway.
Yeah.
Because, I think Haley Steinfeld said like, oh no, I haven't recorded any sort of lines. I'm like, oh, okay. So we're looking 25, 26, maybe 27 now. Okay. That's fine. I got to stay alive for that much longer then.
Yeah. How about you, David? I know you have a particular affinity for Miles.
Yeah. So Miles he's a special character for me, super special character for my kid. My kid loves Miles and is obsessed with Miles. There's a whole bunch of Miles stuff in my house right now, including back there on one of those shelves. There's a Miles mask that my kid often wears. So, I loved it. The first time that I got my tickets for it, Brent will tell you that I ran in, got my tickets, then literally 30 seconds later realized I was out of town. So I just rebooked my tickets for a theater out of town. Like that.
Priorities,
Whatever
man.
it takes.
I'm like,
There you go.
I can still fit this in. So no, my issue is with I don't like the two-parter in the sense of the hard stop, the to be continue and things like that. I think you could have still done a hey, these two movies work in tandem with each other without there being such the hard stop, especially without knowing where you were with the next movie. It's not one of these movies where everything was done at the same time and you just still have a little bit of editing on the back end. You haven't even started yet. And so now you just hard stopped for something that no one's really worked on, and it's going to be years of work to get to. When you hear them talk about how long it took them to figure out that animation for Spider-Punk, or to figure out the differences in how they were doing for things, like, okay, now you have even more characters that you're going to be adding, even more stylistic choices that you're going to be doing, and you haven't even figured this out yet. Probably not best to do a hard stop, not truly knowing when you are going to continue.
Mhm.
David, I just have to say, someone has to say it. Welcome to making movies.
And,
Yeah.
and you know, you say that, and in that, you know, Pascal's saying, like you said, like the to the workers that felt demoralized to having the revised the final renders 5 times in a row, and she said, like you said, welcome to making movies. She's not wrong, but completely comes off when you
Tone
read that. Yeah, absolutely tone deaf, and it is just digging, just uncaring and very, like you said, tone deaf at that point. Not wrong, but definitely not the quote that that's going to.
So
win
the
you
underlying
favors.
quote, welcome to making my pockets deeper. Like, that's basically just what you said.
Now
And
go watch Craven.
And that's one of the reasons they're not. And they brought up the point that Sony Animation is not unionized.
Mhm.
Well, they should.
And like that's like the sad thing with the industry. Like I don't think if it had been like, oh, well, we had to render this thing 5 times and that sucks. And she would have said, welcome to making movies. It's the I worked for 11 hours, 7 days a week to render this thing multiple times. Because apparently the director doesn't like seeing, like, he likes to see the full picture before making a decision on the scene. That's stupid. Like,
I can see I'm not gonna say, you know, it's his right to do that. As a director, it kind of is, but he should have, or they should have, the experience of the first movie. So like, you should know how things are gonna go, right? Oh, the Sony links, that's hilarious. But I get the idea of like, hey, I want to see the big picture, but that's the whole point of like storyboards and planning ahead and
Yeah.
everything else, you know. It's the reason why, you know, that article said that they lost approximately, probably even more so, 100 animators on this film as well, which is absolutely insane.
Like Katie says, though, if it's just a more important, if it's just like a 9 to 5 job, it's not as bad if you got to come in the next day and work on like doing the same thing over and over again. But it's when you get into these 11, 12, 13-hour days, and then they're asking you to do the same thing over and over again, that would just break so many people mentally. It's just, I can't even see how they can push people to do that. But like Brent said, it should be unionized.
It's a difference in the sense of if what was put out there was to be believed on those that came forward for the Vulture piece and things like that. We only know like three or four people at that point, 3 or 4 people that make up like some of the statements at that point. I don't know. They probably had a few others that didn't want to be as verbose at that point on deep background. It's a question of how, based on what they're saying, mainly how the production was run, in the sense of the directors don't make the final say in this. It's it's Lord that makes the final say in it. He overrides everything at that point, and how the process was done that made it more probably a lot of people leaving because other animation studios aren't run like that.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
Or at least productions aren't run like that. So
Joe, you haven't really talked much about. You just put a thumbs up when they asked, "Hey, how'd you think about the movie?" So
Yeah, well, that's the problem is I watched it that Sunday before I went to Disney, so
you don't remember the movie? I said you don't remember the movie.
I don't remember a lot of the movie. I remember my girlfriend's daughter being shocked that it was continued. So she really liked the movie, and again, me going in knowing full well it's going to be a 3-part. So I'm like, okay. I was just kind of wondering when they were going to end it, but I do want to see it again, and I don't know if I'll ever have time in theaters, but I'll definitely watch it when it hits. Well, when it comes out, I'll just buy the Blu-ray.
It has to hit Netflix at some point too. Like the first one was on there and was #1 multiple times, including the first week of that film as well here in Canada, anyway.
Now, I will say my kid had the greatest opening and closing to that movie. So when I picked him up from school, I said, "Hey, bud, we're going to go see Spider-Man." And it's my 9-year-old, my 7-year-old. My 9-year-old was just like, "All right, cool, whatever." But my 7-year-old was like, "All right, Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man." Didn't say anything else. Just, we're going to go see Spider-Man. Get there, we buy popcorn, we sit down, kicks himself up in the AMC recliners. Go through all the trailers beforehand, and then he sees the Sony logo. Then he sees it start to mess up, and he turns to me, he goes, "We're seeing that Spider-Man? It's out and you didn't tell me?" So that's the start. And then he's on cloud 9 the entire movie. We hit the to be continued, and then he goes, "So when are we coming back to see the rest?" I'm like, "Dude, you're going to be in middle school, so chill out."
I will say the one good thing, I know Brent, David, you guys do AMC. Chris, Katie, I know you guys are doing Regal because you both have the Regal Unlimited. Also have Regal Unlimited. The one thing I'm liking with that is Regal, I think last year, when they do the bucket and cup combo, if you can bring that back to the theater and get free refills as long as the movie is in the theaters. So I'll buy the bucket and cup for whatever movie, and then like for Across the Spider-Verse. And since that's gonna be in theaters forever, I'm gonna be able to have free popcorn and pop for the next however long that movie's in theaters. So just let you guys know that.
I don't think AMC checks or cares enough. I could walk in there with a cup right now and just refill, and they'd be like, "Whatever."
You probably could.
Different theater chains. What is this madness that you're talking about?
Well, I used to have the AMC bucket way back when, $5 fills it back up. But I don't know. My AMC is just terrible seats and too close together. Regal here has the nice reclining leather seats, and it's really comfortable.
Well, these buckets now at AMC apparently have the you press a button on there. Nicole Kidman tells Brent how much coming to the movies matters.
Yeah.
My
AMC,
different here.
My AMC got those recliners when Avengers Endgame came out.
Smart.
It is the only MCU movie that my first viewing is not at that AMC because they didn't even have it. I had to go to another show. Now I saw it there 2 or 3 times, but not until later. I had to go to a completely different theater to be able to see it on opening night. Horse.
Whatever.
I still haven't seen that Nicole Kidman thing, by the way.
Same.
Yeah, we don't have
I
AMC.
haven't.
I mean,
You
I
guys
can
are
find
so
it on
lucky.
YouTube for you if you want.
Oh, I know. Like,
But the difference is you're not at AMC right now. I'm already there. That's the problem with it. It's like
For
when
the
I
record,
watch an episode of Titans and they show me a commercial for Titans on HBO Max.
Or
You
CWC.
can go to the restroom and come back in the time that Nicole Kidman thing takes. I've seen it happen.
Oh yeah,
The Regal trailer at the beginning, after the trailers, the Regal thing that pops up with Danny Trejo. I love that one so much.
That's
See,
fine.
that one I don't know.
It's
Like,
just a
really?
quick little blurb of him acting. It's fun. But
Yeah.
the Nicole Kidman thing. So my girlfriend is in the burlesque troupe, and she had the idea because this coming show, they're called absurdities, and so she is taking the Nicole Kidman burlesque or Nicole Kidman AMC thing, and she is incorporating that into a skit for her burlesque.
That's
thing. So
hilarious.
It's
Cool.
gonna be kind of fun. She's got a suit jacket that she has rhinestoned. Spent hours rhinestoning it. She's got like a whole thing set up. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a blast.
That's hilarious.
It just came out of nowhere. Like we went to go see Dungeons and Dragons at our Regal because I had tickets for Regal, but for whatever reason the Regal was closed. Like I don't like it lost power because we had like a storm the night before. So I had to cancel the tickets there, and we went over to the AMC, and we saw the Nicole Kidman thing, and it just clicked in their heads like, I need to do this. This is gonna happen. So
Thank you, Brent. I'll watch this for you.
Yeah, I sent that to Jim on Twitter.
there's, I mean, it's a thing. It's
But it's
Yeah.
like if I must watch it, everyone must watch it.
But
I
you have to watch
would've-
it 20 times to catch up.
I would have seen it by now if I was still living in Atlanta, but because there was like that's a big AMC town. I live in Memphis now, and it's just like a mid-south regional chain. So like the closest AMC to me is like in Kentucky.
Oh, gee.
that's a bit
Well,
of a
it's not worth making the trip for it.
How on YouTube is this?
I guess I'll take the opportunity right now to step out as we're getting close to midnight here for me. Yeah. Guys, I'll chat with you guys later. David and Jim, thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Travis_156 on Twitter. That's where you can follow me. DC Alliance. Monday nights, myself and Joe are going to do a Superman and Lois catch up. I'm super excited as that's what I'm going to fall asleep to now, catching up on the last two episodes. So I'm looking forward to that. We got a new Lex, so it's going to be fun to discuss that. I've been loving that show.
I should probably watch the episode for Monday.
Guys,
It's
it's
worth
been
it.
fun.
See
Later.
you later, Hans.
I think I'm also going to say adios at this point, because I had a lot of wine today and I'm tired.
What happened to it's all out of your system and you had a nap?
Oh,
Yeah.
it like hit me like a box of rocks.
I told you
was-
it doesn't go out that fast.
I'm so tired. But no, yeah. Jim, David, thanks for joining us. Slice of Katie on Twitter. And then obviously Star Wars Alliance is live on Wednesdays. We're gonna be talking Rebel Season 1 this coming week. So I'm very
Just
excited
finish
about
that.
that. Because that's gonna be fun to do before Ahsoka. So and then Slice of Film, Chris and I are recording for Indiana Jones 4 tomorrow,
I'm sorry.
which will be going up on Monday.
I'm not.
And then obviously Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny is coming up. So that's what you can expect. So bye guys.
Bye, Katie.
See ya.
Uh,
See you later, Katie.